All right, so we've got another game this Saturday that's going to give us a lot more of a sense of clarity, which is what we look for as college football fans here in the month of October. We've got number 3 Ohio State taking on number 7 Penn State. And just like we had in the Pac 12 last weekend before USC lost to Notre Dame and Washington edged out Oregon, we've got a 3-team race in the Big Ten East right now. We've got Ohio State, Michigan, and Penn State. We have two of those three taking on each other this weekend, so the outcome of this game will give us more of a sense of clarity as that Big Ten East race unfolds and we ultimately see who heads to Indy in December. So Ohio State, their offense was a point of frustration for a while this year. They weren't really getting much traction early on. People flipped out after the Indiana game because they just didn't have the same flow they had with C.J. Stroud. But why would you expect offense to have the same flow that they have with C.J. Stroud, who's currently killing it with the Texans right now, I must say. But just like C.J. Stroud, as the season's going on, I've seen Kyle McCord get a lot more comfortable and a lot more acquainted with Ohio State and its offensive system, a lot more on the same page with receivers, and I love it because, as always, this Ohio State team, like a fine wine, they get better every single week. And even though there were those offensive struggles, and they pulled that game off against Notre Dame, but people still had questions about their offense after that contest as well. You look back at the two games following the Notre Dame game, and they've scored north of 35 points in both those games. So something's clicking. Something's working. And that Ohio State defense, which is something that's been understated for years, that Ohio State defense has really stepped up this year. So Ohio State playing complementary football. The offense may not be as electric as it's been in past years, but their defense is a lot better. They're playing a lot more balanced football. So I love seeing that out of the Buckeyes, and that almost makes me consider them as more of a threat this year than maybe they were last year. The concern this Saturday, my only concern with the Buckeyes is the health of Travion Henderson and Emeka Egbuka. I saw an update this morning that Ryan Day is hopeful that they're going to come back. He hasn't confirmed anything yet, and it probably will be a game time decision or a decision that we made on Friday. But he is right now hopeful that they'll play. I think they'll play. It's in Columbus. They're playing Penn State. This is a big rivalry here. It's a very important game for Ohio State moving down the stretch. If I'm one of those guys, I'm doing everything I can do to play in this game. Tape me up. Give me whatever shot I need. Let's just get me in this game. Please. I want these Nittany Lions. And I think they have the same mentality. And I think you'll see them on the field on Saturday. So if that can happen, that'll be another edge for Ohio State. I really think that Notre Dame game was a game, like I said a couple weeks ago, where Ohio State really found its identity. It gave them a real sense of fire. Ryan Day really fired them up with that post game speech. I loved it, and they've just had a different swagger ever since. Yes, the Maryland game was tight early on. They didn't really get into much of a rhythm early on, but as that second half happens, they really started to click. You saw them get challenged in the third game against Maryland, and then you saw them just find a way. And when you can find a way with your teammates, you get closer, and you have more of an identity. And I think you're really starting to see that with Ohio State. Like I say, those Buckeyes, they're like a fine wine. They get better as the season goes on. That's one common theme we've seen with Ohio State all these past years. Penn State, you assess them. They haven't scored less than 30 points this season, including against that stingy Iowa defense. Penn State still managed to score north of 30 points, which is really impressive because we all know how amazing that Iowa defense is. Another thing I look at when I assess teams is how do they respond to adversity? How do they respond when things don't go their way? How do they respond when their game plan isn't being executed as well as they expect it to be? Penn State faced that issue when they took on Northwestern several weeks ago. Their first half was very clunky. They were out of sync. They were out of rhythm, and the game was a lot tighter than fans and experts expected it to be, and a lot tighter than, quite frankly, the Nittany Lions expected it to be. But what defined Penn State was how they responded to that first half. They came out in the second half, and they ended up hanging 41 on the Northwestern Wildcats, and being able to respond to adversity and to things not going their way in the manner that Penn State did in that game is a testament to not only their team but their program overall, and that's why I think that Penn State has really found their identity going into this. Ohio State game. I think Penn State has the superior quarterback with Drew Aller, but Ohio State has a better overall roster than Penn State's. It's a very evenly matched game, so when games are evenly matched, I like to use analogies to make my pick. So I have an analogy for this Ohio State-Penn State game. In upstate New York, we get a lot of snow. And when it snows too much, we'll have snow days. We won't go to school. It was very fun anticipating them. But our school administrators wouldn't call a snow day the night before unless we were guaranteed to get more than 18 inches of snow. If it wasn't a guarantee, they'd wait until the morning to make the call. I don't pick against Alabama or Ohio State at home unless I'm completely confident in their opponent. And that is no referendum against Penn State this year. I think they're an amazing team. But unless they're performing at like a historical level, I'm not going to pick them against Ohio State when they're playing in Columbus just because they're so dominant there. I'm taking Ohio State in this game, 28-24. It's going to be close. It's going to be entertaining. It's going to be great as this rivalry always is. And I can already hear what the narrative will be on Penn State on Sunday and Monday after this game. Oh, Penn State, once again, they can't win the big one with James Franklin. Well, pump the brakes on that. They still have Michigan this year. I think they're capable of winning that game. That'll be a video when that game approaches as well. But if Ohio State wins and if Penn State loses this game, don't sell your Penn State stock because the season is not over for them. It'll be their first loss, and they'll still have that second chance against Michigan, but it would be a huge win for Ohio State if they're able to pull this off to continue to build momentum as the season goes on. Have a great day. Thank you so much for watching this video. I really appreciate you and the time that you took out of your day to watch the video, and if you enjoyed it, please be sure to like the video and share it, as well as subscribe to The Era. The more likes and subscribers I get on this channel, the more resources I can attain, and the more resources I can attain, the more value I can provide to you, the viewer. And that is how I show my appreciation for you for the time that you devote to watching my videos. So thank you so much, and have a great day.